Gundam.tk presents High Grade G Bouncer. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, GundamReviews.net, and my look at the High Grade 1144th G Bouncer continues as it's time to get a leader for this wolf pack here. Before taking a look at each part individually, you can see all the main body parts here to go along with the weapons, backpack, and shield. Bottom to top, starting with something that I didn't really notice until I started putting it together, is just really how these are just the sparrow legs, and I'll show you a comparison in a moment. But in terms of posability and everything like that, that's going to be a good thing. You can move the hips around up here. This gray part is going to rotate and go up and down. You're going to get a bend there and there to bring the knee down, and the ankles are going to rock forward and back, and they're going to go off to the side, but not as much as you'd think, so not quite double O types. And you're also able to bend down this part here to bring forward a knee full of pain. So here it is next to the sparrow, and you can see that on these side parts here that there's just going to be a difference here in the way that the markings are applied. You can see that there's some little channels there, where you're just going to have little dash marks here, different kind of vents down there. And that's also going to apply down here on the bottom, where you're going to have smooth part here for the calves, whereas here you're going to have some lining, and that whole needle theme, which sort of applies to the needleman motif of the sparrow. But otherwise you're going to have the same part here that slides on down below. So it's 90% the same, and it's really going to look the same in practice. The waist section is pretty unique, however, except for the sides where you're just going to put in the beam sabers, Age 1 style. But it's the front that is going to attract most of the attention. These parts are not going to separate, so you could do that yourself, I suppose. But something that I had to be a little bit careful of with the lining here is that I used a real touch marker because it's hard to get in those channels. So that you'll notice in some lights that this being Gundam marker, this being real touch, that it's just a little bit different. But overall it's a very cool look, I think, for the front part, and it fits the overall sleek motif of this kind of guy. Down here you can attach the beam rifle onto the back, and again lots of little opportunities, and you're able to wiggle the hips ever so slightly off to the side in addition to rotating. The chest was also a lot of fun to put together. Here you're going to have double ball joints, so you'll see that this part can move ever so slightly down below. These are separate parts here that you're going to put on here, and because they're going to be coming off different plates, I can't help but wonder about the color variations in the future that they're going to be doing with this. They're not all from the same plate, so it's certainly not going to be all white, and I can't wait to see how that's going to work. Especially with these black seals that they've got underneath, Soundwave style I'm just going to call it, and you put that part on the top. It's sort of disappointing that they have to use seals, but then again it's still going to look really good at no matter which angle you look at it at, and again it's just going to add to this G-Bouncer's unique look. The shoulders are going to go up and down and forward and back, so we should have great mobility there, and on the back you're going to have a solid thruster and no smiley face Stargazer style, but then you're ready to plug in the backpack here. But it's to the arms first, where you're going to have these great looking shoulders, except when you're going to put them together, they're not made as many pieces as you'd think. So that's a little bit disappointing, and again, it's a little bit hard to get the black ink in there, so real touch marker is just going to be that much more flexible for you to take off with a Q-tip or something like that compared to a Gundam marker, and you can see that it wasn't all cleaned up perfectly. Good opportunities though for lining, and I do like the black on white here for some reason with this guy. I've done that with most of Wolf's suits instead of the gray. In terms of mobility, you can rotate this around here. You're going to have this white part, which is not going to bend up, but it's going to look good even when you move the shoulder up. The elbow is going to go like this, and then up like this. And you're very familiar, I'm sure, by now with most of the high-grade age kits. You could pop this off and rotate this around if you were doing different things with shields, etc. In the anime, I didn't really notice how big these thrusters are that are going to go onto the back, and they've got pretty good playability as well. Big solid gray pieces underneath there with boosters there that you can attach in, and they are going to have these two panels here which are going to open up and reveal more thrusters on the inside. If you wanted to paint those up, I'm sure you can make them look pretty cool, but you can see that there's lots of lining opportunities, and they are just going to sit on this ball joint on the back, and you can see that in their open position they are going to be pretty dynamic, which is going to come in handy, especially if you check out my review of the high-grade Adele, because you can see here that it's advertising the G-Bouncer sold separately, that you can take these and attach these onto the back in addition to the Age 1's familiar Sparrow and Titus wares. In terms of beam rifles, this Dodge rifle is going to look pretty plain compared to some of the larger ones Wolf's been packing in the past. You can just see the barrel down there, good lining opportunities, a simple handle here which is just going to go underneath, no need to attach it into anything, a green seal to put it on, and you are going to have this gray part which flips in and out, and that's going to come in handy because here on the back you've got this part which is going to fold down, but you don't have to use that for anything because you can just plug in the Dodge rifle like this. The beam sabers continue the solid construction we've seen for the high-grade age with two parts there, and they are of the flat variety. Just disappointing that they seem to be overshadowed after the fangs were the GX's most famous weapon. But that seems to be okay when it's in the form of this very cool looking shield, which is going to have a clear green part, and it's going to be done up to look like Wolf's personal mark. In terms of solidness, you've just got these white parts. When you put them on here, you can put some lining in. On the back, you're not going to have any nice gray parts or anything like that. And the way this part actually attaches in here, this is the shiggle, or whatever you want to call it. You can pop this off. It's going to fit in quite well and pretty solid, so you're going to have to pop that out on occasion. And over here, you've got this clear green part, which is not going to be the dark green that we've gotten very used to with the 00. It sort of comes across as yellowish in some lights, but in other ones, it's looking very cool. And it's great to see this kind of weapon because it just looks like 25 years of progress. And hey, it's a shiny clear part. Which combined with the very sharp looking head here, I'm not sure if this was the best way to go about lining it, but anyway, this is the way that it's done. It's pretty simple here. You're just going to have a big part for the back, a part for the front. And actually, when you put it together, you're going to be putting this white part on here separately. So again, that could be part of the color variation scheme going. And the thing is, because it's a separate part, it's a little bit awkward to line. So I decided there are not channels that are built in there. I decided not to line around this part, and these parts are just a little bit thick here. It's not going to look bad from a distance, but the seals for the eyes are going to look good. And this part up here, you have the choice of putting on a seal for the camera lens. But because this whole eye part is this aqua blue here or green, it's actually going to look really sharp as is, I think. And the overall plain look is not a bad thing in my books because he's going to be very angular all over the place. And his wolf ears keep getting longer and longer, so you can put some lining in there. Camera lens on the back for a little bit of shininess. But overall, I can't wait to see how this is going to look on top of that body. That'll wrap up my look at the parts, and I've got to say that most of them are pretty fun to put together, especially the shield, the weapons, the chest, the backpack, and the arms. And that angular looking head, everything about it was fun, except I built the legs last when I was putting this thing together, and I couldn't help but be disappointed because I was building and I'm like, hey, this is just the Sparrow all over. I didn't bother to take a look at this until I made this video, and you can see that yes, this part is slightly different and this part is slightly different in terms of just the little details around it, but otherwise it's identical. So just disappointing for me that the end was repetitive, but outside of that, this much 80% is all looking good so far, so can't wait to put it all together and see how that looks. So stay tuned for the next part, and please let me know what you think of the video and the MS with a comment down below. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Wolf's first rule of hostage-taking situations: shoot the hostage taker.